This is the Jeff Akin Show, AR1.TV. You caught me again posting to social media. If you want to follow me on social media, please do so. Twitter, at Jeff Akin, AR1TV, at Jeff Akin, AR1TV. You can find me on Facebook as well. And you can email me your comments, your suggestions, show ideas even. Jeff at AR1.TV, Jeff at AR1.TV. Last segment, we heard from Milton Friedman. And he was talking about income inequality. It's something that has been a huge, huge issue over the last few years here. It was a huge issue back in the 1800s when Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto. By the way, I'm not much on reading trash, but you should read the Communist Manifesto because you would be surprised yet angered at how much of communism has really seeped into our government and how much of communistic ideas that are being promoted by education in America. I'm telling you, you'll be very, very surprised, and I'm telling you, you'll be angry about it too. Read the Communist Manifesto. You got to know what communism is about because it's so important. I mean, and it's so involved in our government. I mean, it's amazing at the different levels that it's involved. Well, anyway, so income inequality is one of those issues that's popped up here of recent days where people want equal pay for equal work. And they also want to make it to where the minimum wage is raised as well. There is even a website called inequality.org. And listen what it says. Income inequality refers to the extent to which income is distributed in an uneven manner among a population. In the United States, income inequality, or the gap between the rich and everyone else, has been growing markedly by every major measure for some 30 years. Well, my thing is this. Become the top 1%. Instead of fighting the top 1%, become the top 1%. You can do that in America, by the way. Oh, no, I can't do that. No, you can't do it. No, it's just something you can't, you won't. You see, because you can do it in America, but people don't want to do it in America because they want things handed to them because we have an entitlement society. The median U.S. household income, according to inequality.org, the median U.S. household income in 2012 totaled $51,000. Half of American households had income greater than this figure, half less. The Great Recession hit incomes hit hard across the board. Median household income declined 8.1% between 2007 and 2012. Adjusted for inflation, incomes are at their lowest point since 1996. Between the end of World War II and the late 70s, incomes in the U.S. were becoming more equal. In other words, incomes at the bottom were rising faster than those at the top. Since the late 1970s, this trend has reversed. Data from tax returns show that the top 1% of households received 8.9% of all pre-tax income in 1976. In 2012, the top 1% share had more than doubled to 22.46%. The level of income inequality, research shows, endangers our society on a variety of fronts. No, it doesn't. What it says is you need to get your rear end in gear and get to work. All right, now, what does Jesus say about income inequality? I'll give you an example. Let's say you and I go to work, okay? And we both do the same job, same hours, every day, same office. Should we be paid the same? Should we be paid the same as the guy who owns the business? Okay? Should I be paid the same as the guy who owns it? Should the guy in the mailroom be paid the same as the guy sitting in the corner office who is the CEO of the corporation? All right. Jesus actually had something to say about this, believe it or not. And it's really pretty cool because when you hear this, he makes a lot of sense. This is Jesus talking about income equality or inequality. It's a parable of the vineyard, okay? He says this. He said, the kingdom of heaven, now the kingdom of God and kingdom of heaven are different. The kingdom of God is what's in your heart when you get born again that is supposed to rule your life, okay? The kingdom of heaven is what's coming to this earth at one day where Jesus will be the ruler over the entire earth, okay? So this tells you how Jesus King Jesus, is going to run his economy. Watch this. The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out at daybreak to hire workers for his vineyard. So here's a guy, he needs workers for his vineyard. So he's going to go out and hire some folks, okay? About 9 a.m., he saw others standing in the marketplace without work. I'm sorry, let me back up. After agreeing to pay the workers the usual day wages, he sent them to work in his vineyard. So it's daybreak. Let's say it's 6 a.m., okay? 6 a.m., he finds these workers. He says, go out, I'm going to pay you a day's wage. Let's say $100. I'm going to pay you $100 all day today. Go out there and get my grapes in here, all right? He goes back out at 9 o'clock to the same place and says, I need more workers. So he hires more workers. He says to them, work in my vineyard, and I'll give you whatever is right. So they went. Then he went back at 5 o'clock. He went back at 3 o'clock and said the same thing and did the same thing. And at 5 o'clock, he went out and found some others standing around. He said to them, why are you standing here all day long without work? No one has hired us, they said. He said to them, well, then work in my vineyard. Okay? When evening came, the owner of the vineyard told the supervisor, call the workers and give them their wages. Start with the last and end with the first. So those who started working at 5 o'clock came in and each received a day's wage, $100. I'm just using that number. So those who came in at 5 o'clock, let's say they only worked until sundown. So they worked until 9 o'clock, okay? No, let's say 6 o'clock. Let's say it's the Sabbath that day. They stopped working at 6 o'clock. So they worked for 1 hour, got $100. When those that hired first came, they expected to receive more, but each of them received a day's wage. So think about this now. The folks that started working at 6 a.m. got $100. The folks that started working at 9 a.m., they got $100. The folks that started working at 3 p.m. got $100, and the guys working at 5 o'clock, they got $100. Well, of course, they complained about this. They complained big time about this. And he said, he said to them, these last workers have already worked 1 hour. You treat us all the same, even though we worked hard all day under a blazing sun. Notice that, the owner said, friend, am I not treating you unfairly? Didn't you agree with me on a day's wage? Take your money and go. I want to give this last worker as much as I gave you. Can't I do what I want with my money? Or do you resent my generosity toward others? In this way, the last will be first and the first will be last. In other words, not everybody's going to get the same reward when they get to heaven. Jesus is not going to give everybody the same thing. All right? It depends on what you've agreed to. If I sit here and I agree that I'm going to do a job for this much money, then I should not be upset at someone else who agrees to do the same job, maybe less hours, but they agree to their pay. I should be happy about the owner being generous to everybody else. That's not how we're taught. We're taught, listen, what about school? You walk into class with some candy. Did you bring enough for everybody? No, I didn't, because not everybody went out and worked for the money to buy the candy. I love one story. Teacher says to little Johnny, did you bring enough candy for everybody? Little Johnny says, nope. Teacher says, why not? Little Johnny says, because not everybody helped me mow the lawn, so I could buy this candy. When they help me mow the lawn, I'll give them some candy. That kind of says it all, doesn't it? So people believe that this whole idea of income equality is something that is good, and it's not good. Jesus is even saying here, look, you agreed to work for me for $100 all day long. You started at 6 a.m. in the morning, you worked for $100. The guy who started working at 9 a.m., he agreed to work for $100. The guy who started at 3 p.m., he agreed to work for $100. The guy who started at 5 o'clock, he agreed to work for $100. What is it your business? This is Jeff's translation now. What is it your business that I pay these people what I pay them? It's my vineyard. It's my money. Well, let's translate that into the free market now. I can pay people what I want to pay them. So he's saying here, now this is Jesus. He's against the minimum wage. Well, Jeff, what if the $100 is the minimum wage? No, you're talking about minimum wage per hour. He's talking about a wage that he wants to pay. He chose to pay them what he paid them. He's not being forced by government to pay. He chose to pay them. Well, Jeff, it sounds like socialism. Everybody's getting the same. No. He's choosing to pay them the same. And the people, by their own free will, agreed to that wage. See, it goes back to one word, my friend, one word: freedom. That's why this is called the voice of freedom, because I'm all about freedom. Jesus is saying, I'm going to pay people what I want to pay them. You can agree or not agree. You have freedom also. Financial Friday, Jeff Akin Show, AR1.tv.